When you've got almost 500,000 job vacancies and unemployment is at its lowest point in almost half a century, there's only one thing for it: a job summit. This Thursday, Parliament House will play host to 100 business leaders, union reps, government officials and other experts to figure out why Aussie wages are stagnating and how to get them moving.
For the last decade, Australians have really suffered when it's come to wage growth. In fact, with inflation, most people have gone backwards in real terms.
Are you working? The unions are pushing for a shift away from casual work to permanent employment, better protections in the gig economy and, crucially, a return to collective wage bargaining.
That's the reason why we've got a huge problem with wages growth, and unless we address that issue, that's not going to change.
The business community is worried this will see industry-wide strike action, leading to this heated showdown between the two warring parties.
Sally and I are absolutely on a unity ticket.
The idea of bargaining being simple and fair is something that we both support.
The other thing that Sally and I both agree on is that migration should be longer term.
Hopefully they'll find some common ground. Lifting the caps on skilled migration is high on the agenda, as is the gender pay gap, with the government putting pay equity front and centre.
We need to improve that gender pay gap. It's still too high at 14%, and that means women are working for less than men across the board.
There's a pretty big task ahead of the government in fixing the gender pay gap, not just for women who are working with male colleagues in traditional industries, but also in dragging up the pay for women who work in the care industry. That is one of the huge problems that is facing the government and this summit in general.
So, as our brightest minds descend for a two-day Gabfest, is this the week Australia finally gets a pay rise?
Senator Katie Gallagher is the Finance Minister and the Minister for Women, and she joins us now. Minister, you've got 2 days to solve this crisis. How soon can Aussies expect a pay rise?
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for having me on. Well, obviously getting wages moving is one of the key issues that we've been dealing with since we came to government. It's going to be a massive focus at the Jobs and Skills Summit, but there's a whole range of other issues as well. We've got skill shortages. We've got wages that haven't moved for, 10 years. We've got labour shortages. The bargaining system needs attending to. So there's all of these issues, and they're all part of the Jobs and Skills Summit and the discussion. But I'm not going to pretend that we can wave a magic wand and fix things. There's sort of been a decade of wasted opportunity, but here we are in our first 3 months, and we're bringing everyone together to start the discussion about how to deal with them on Thursday and Friday this week.
Katie, I wonder, though, what this is going to achieve, because you can rattle off all the problems in the same way that the Business Council can, the unions can. I think we all understand that the system isn't working because we don't have the migration numbers right, we don't have wages growth, there's a stagnation issue. We see it when we walk into a cafe, there's just not enough staff available, but we also know we're not getting the pay rises. So what are you actually going to do in this 2 days that makes a difference for every Australian?
Well, I think it's about identifying the areas that we can, where there is agreement between business, unions, government and the NGO sector, where there are some
what do you
quick
agree
things
on
that we
with
can
them? Because
do.
it's pretty clear that the unions and business agree on a lot.
Yeah, right. So, and I've been listening to some of the commentary in the lead up to the summit. There does appear to be a whole range of areas where people are prepared to come together. But we're not predetermining the outcomes before the summit, Hamish. We need to make this summit, genuine and a genuine conversation. And we're also not going to pretend that we can fix everything. These are significant challenges built up over a decade. But the conversation is really important, as is any shared agreement on priorities going forward.
Senator, the Business Council is calling for an increase of annual migration to 220,000, which sounds like a lot, but I believe that's only an increase of about 20,000 above what's already planned. Is that going to be enough to solve these labour shortages that we're all seeing every day?
Well, I can't go to a meeting anywhere at the moment without business raising this with me. And as Hamish just said, you see it in the cafes, you see it in the low unemployment rate. There's definitely a need to have a discussion about what the migration level is, what's the appropriate setting. But as we're having that discussion, and this again is the purpose of the Jobs and Skills Summit, we've also got to be looking at how we're skilling and training up Australian workers for the jobs of the future and have some long-term planning around that. Part of the puzzle is also making sure that our kids and older workers who are changing jobs actually have the skills and training to move into these jobs as well. So it's not one or the other, it's both.
Senator, forgive my question if it's stupid, but what is the difference between a conference and a summit?
Well, you got me there. What is the difference? Look, it's
I guess
it's
I
very
ask-
similar, I would say.
I ask because it seems like a term that's very in vogue at the moment, and when I'm reading it, I'm like, this just sounds like a conference.
I don't know. Look, it's a summit. It's the Jobs and Skills Summit. If people want to call it a conference, I'm sure that, we'll be pretty relaxed about that. But, yeah, I think it has the idea of pulling people together. But that was a bit of a trick question.
I should get to my point. I spent years hosting conferences for various industries around the country, and always the conference spent, in your case, 2 days or however long it was, waiting so they could all just get pissed at the end. Are you excited about getting pissed at the end of this one?
I don't think there'll be any of that. Certainly not.
That's the difference between a conference and a summit.
You're just annoyed because you didn't get the gig as the comedian on the final night. That's what that is. All right, Senator Katie Gallagher, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
I want to know which industry in their right mind got you to host their conference.
All the ones that couldn't afford Hamish McDonald?